What happens when a powerful law enforcement agency, meant to protect democracy, is accused of turning into a weapon? That was the explosive question at the heart of a fiery congressional hearing, where Representative Madeline Dean confronted FBI Director Kash Patel in a clash that pulled no punches. This wasn't routine political theater. It was raw, it was tense, and it was about something every American should care about: the independence of the nation's most powerful investigative body. From questions of perjury to the shadow of an enemy's list, the exchange revealed just how fragile the line is between accountability and abuse of power.
Thank you, Chairman Rogers, Ranking Member Meng, Chairman Cole, Ranking Member DeLauro. And thank you, Mr. Patel, for your testimony and for being here today. I've been looking at the President's 120-word FBI budget request, the so-called skinny, I'll call it Ozempic request, that states that, quote, the undoing of the weaponization of the FBI is one of the administration's top priorities. The weaponization of the FBI is something that deeply concerns me. It should concern all of us. And yet, since taking office, President Trump has been on a revenge tour. He has targeted individuals, universities, law firms, with executive orders to cut them out or to make them come under his will. He has used ICE to disappear U.S. citizens without due process, and he's fully ignored a unanimous Supreme Court order, and then over the weekend wasn't sure if he was obligated to uphold the Constitution of the United States. In your book, your recent book, Government Gangsters, you include an appendix with a list of names that people have referred to as an enemies list. Now, I know you will claim it's just an appendix, not an enemies list. So let's focus on how the president sees it, on what the president calls it. And you proudly display his quote on the front cover of your book. The president calls this a brilliant roadmap, a blueprint. And I have not even raised your storied children's book, The Plot Against the King. It concerns me how many people from this blueprint have been targeted with executive orders and FBI investigations. The FBI cannot be weaponized, and under your leadership, it has been nothing but a weapon alongside the president to go after the president's perceived opponents, to stifle dissent and free speech. A few weeks ago, as we saw through a social media post that you quickly deleted, the FBI arrested a judge in Wisconsin for correctly asking ICE officials if they had a judicial warrant instead of an administrative warrant, which they did not have. Despite this judge following the law, on the morning of April the 25th, the FBI arrested the judge in an escalation of the weaponization of the FBI under your leadership. Let me be clear. A functioning democracy does not lock up judges. I am gravely concerned about the utter lack of independence of the FBI and its weaponization under your leadership. I am concerned that the president is using this book, your book, as a blueprint, as he has said. It's a blueprint for revenge. And I am concerned that your eagerness, a childlike giddiness to carry out the president's revenge tour, you've shown yourself to be unserious in your statements before you were sworn in and some after. You've shown yourself unfit to lead this important agency. I was an impeachment manager for President Trump's second impeachment. It was a sad, solemn duty. And so I wanted to ask you about that. Mr. Patel, as you and the president continue to weaponize and investigate his perceived enemies, as you follow this blueprint, when can I, a former impeachment manager, expect the FBI at my door?
Ma'am, you want to know who was targeted by a weaponized FBI? Me. You want to know how and why?
Well,
you want to know what I'm doing to fix it?
That. Let me move on.
Well, you should read the book because there's no enemies
So-
list on that book.
so
There are
you-
people that violated their constitutional obligations and their duties to the American people.
That's good. You
And they
gave
were
them due
rightly
process.
called out.
I'm
And
changing
you should
topics.
give that book to every one of your constituents so they can
changing
read
topics.
about it.
I won't be doing that.
That's their loss.
During your Senate confirmation hearings, you repeatedly denied having any involvement as a private citizen in the firing of FBI officials who engaged in the prosecution against January 6 insurrectionists, the violent rioters who beat and killed Capitol police officers, and whom you referred to as political prisoners. Since then, multiple whistleblowers have come forward, and we know that you likely committed perjury. At the same hearing, you claimed you were not familiar with Stu Peters, an anti-Semitic Holocaust denier, despite the fact that you appeared on Mr. Peters' podcast 8 separate times. 8 times, and you claimed not to recall. Mr. Patel, my second question is, should we worry more about your memory or your veracity?
We should worry more about your lack of candor. You're accusing me of committing
Veracity?
perjury. Tell the American
You didn't
people how
know?
I broke the law and committed a felony.
You did
Have the audacity to actually
No,
put the
all
facts
right, then
forward
the answer is
instead of
both.
lying for political banter so you can have a 20-second
answer
donation hit.
The answer is both. I believe that the
The
men and
answer is
women of
you're
the
failing, not
I
me.
reclaim my time.
Go ahead.
Mr. Patel, I believe that the members of the FBI, and I know many of them, many retired, 38,000 people, as you say, it's a little less than that now, deserve the very best, deserve extraordinary independence, deserve freedom from the fears of being investigated, the freedom of coming forward to make sure they're doing their job. And I'll end with this, that I think it's interesting that in your proposal today, you find yourself at a gulf of difference between you and the president. I wonder how you will resolve that. Will you go to the president and say, we need $11.2 billion, not what you cut out of here? You're asking for more than $1 billion than the president's request. Are you going to go to the president and straighten out that gulf?
I'll do what I've always done and represent the American people, defend this country, and make sure the Constitution is always upheld and the FBI is never weaponized. Maybe you should do the same.
So you agree with the president when he says he doesn't know if he should uphold his constitutional duty?
If you want to just keep putting words in my mouth, the TV cameras are outside.
I thank you. I yield back. Again, this is an unserious moment, sadly, for the FBI. I yield back.
More so for you.
Mr. Strong.
And the way Dean pressed Patel made one thing clear. This was about more than him. This was about whether ordinary Americans could trust the very system designed to protect them. Dean began with a question that immediately shook the room. She pointed out that Patel had appeared on a controversial podcast multiple times, despite claiming under oath that he had little or no involvement. Then came the stinger. Should we worry more about your memory or your honesty? The silence that followed was heavy. Patel shot back, accusing her of grandstanding, of using him for a soundbite. But the damage was done. The audience, both in the hearing and those watching across the nation, couldn't help but wonder, was this a matter of faulty memory or deliberate deception? It was a moment that cut to the heart of credibility, and credibility is everything for the head of the FBI. But that was only the beginning. Dean pivoted quickly to a book Patel had recently published, a book he himself promoted as a defense of his time in government. Inside it was an appendix, a list of names that many critics referred to as an enemy's list. Patel denied it, of course, insisting it was simply a record, nothing sinister. But Dean zeroed in on how others, including powerful figures, had described it. She argued that the book had become more than just memoir. It was now being treated as a blueprint, a playbook for revenge. And if such a blueprint guided the mindset of the nation's top investigator, what did that say about the integrity of the FBI? The stakes grew higher as Dean broadened her focus. She spoke about the FBI's actions, not just the words in Patel's book. She cited disturbing examples: citizens allegedly detained without proper due process, the arrest of a judge in Wisconsin who had merely asked law enforcement officials for the proper warrant before allowing a search. According to Dean, these were not isolated missteps. They were signs of a dangerous pattern. Her voice grew sharper as she declared, "A functioning democracy does not lock up judges." That line reverberated far beyond the chamber. It was not just a legal argument. It was a warning about the erosion of democratic norms. Patel, for his part, pushed back hard. He accused Dean of twisting facts, of using rumors to score political points. He defended the FBI's work, pointing to seizures of dangerous drugs, arrests of violent offenders, and the daily sacrifices of thousands of agents across the country. He painted himself not as a weaponizer, but as a defender of the Constitution. Yet the contrast between Dean's examples and Patel's reassurances made the tension only sharper. Was this a clash of truth versus fiction, or a deeper fight over the soul of the FBI? Dean wasn't done. She turned to Patel's role in the aftermath of January 6th, when rioters stormed the Capitol. During his Senate confirmation hearings, Patel had denied involvement in the firings of FBI officials tied to the prosecutions of rioters. But Dean cited whistleblowers who claimed otherwise, suggesting Patel had not been truthful under oath. She did not mince words, calling it potential perjury, a felony. Patel snapped back, accusing her of smearing him with baseless accusations. But to anyone watching, the exchange raised an unavoidable question. If a leader could not be fully trusted under oath, how could the nation trust him to wield the immense power of the FBI? At this point, the hearing shifted from confrontation to something larger, principle. Dean framed the entire issue as a test of loyalty. Not loyalty to a political leader, but loyalty to the Constitution. She asked the pointed question that lingered in the air. Was the FBI still an independent institution, or had it become a tool to punish enemies and protect allies? The enemies list in Patel's book became the symbol of that question. Was it merely names on paper, or a glimpse into a mindset that treated opponents as targets? Patel insisted no such list existed. He argued the names represented individuals who had betrayed their duties to the American people. He even suggested Dean should recommend his book to her constituents so they could learn the truth. Dean's refusal to do so highlighted just how deep the distrust had grown. The clash wasn't only about facts and denials. It was about perception, about whether the public could believe the FBI was serving justice instead of politics. And yet, the most powerful part of the exchange came not from accusations or denials, but from the broader implications. Dean reminded the room, and the country, that when federal agencies are seen as political tools, the damage spreads far beyond the headlines. Career agents start to fear stepping out of line. Whistleblowers risk retaliation. Judges and public officials question whether their independence will be respected. The entire system begins to erode, piece by piece, until trust in democracy itself weakens. It's not just about one director or one administration. It's about whether Americans believe their government can operate fairly, impartially, and without revenge as its mission. As the hearing reached its peak, the tension between the two figures symbolized something much greater. On one side, Dean represented the demand for oversight, for transparency, for the principle that no agency or official is above scrutiny. On the other, Patel represented a defensive wall, pushing back against claims he saw as politically motivated, determined to protect the image of the FBI. The clash wasn't just about past actions. It was about the future of the institution. Would it remain trusted, or would suspicions of weaponization define its legacy? This exchange also offered a civic lesson to anyone watching. Performance metrics, like how many arrests are made or how many drugs are seized, are important, but they are not substitutes for constitutional fidelity. An agency can be effective at fighting crime and still lose its way if it forgets its higher duty to protect rights and maintain independence. Dean's questioning drew that line clearly. She reminded everyone that law enforcement must be judged not only by results, but by the principles it upholds in achieving them. In the final moments, Dean delivered a stark warning. She pointed out that Patel's eagerness, what she called a childlike giddiness, to embrace his role in what some view as a blueprint for political revenge, made him unfit to lead. Patel pushed back one last time, insisting that he served the American people, defended the Constitution, and ensured the FBI would never be weaponized. But the clash of narratives left viewers with more questions than answers. Which vision was true? And how much trust could citizens place in the institution at the center of it all? What makes this hearing so important is that it wasn't just a partisan squabble. It was a real-world demonstration of why oversight exists, why transparency matters, and why public scrutiny of government officials is essential. For ordinary Americans, it was a reminder that institutions only work if people demand accountability. Silence allows power to grow unchecked. And unchecked power, no matter who wields it, is dangerous. The lesson here isn't abstract. It's tangible. Imagine being a career FBI agent, unsure if your work will be judged by law or by politics. Imagine being a judge, arrested for following the Constitution. Imagine being a citizen wondering whether the agency sworn to protect you is watching you instead. These are not theoretical risks. They are the very concerns raised in that chamber. And they remind us that democracy survives not because of buildings or agencies, but because of constant vigilance from the people. So, what should viewers take away from this clash between Dean and Patel? That accountability matters. That loyalty to the Constitution must always outweigh loyalty to any one person. That when leaders are questioned, it is not an attack. It is the system working as it should. And that without constant checks, even the most respected institutions can lose their way. This hearing may not have provided every answer, but it posed the right questions. It forced the country to look closely at the line between justice and politics. And it reminded everyone watching that democracy is not self-sustaining. It requires defense, debate, and, most importantly, accountability. That if you believe in that accountability, if you care about transparency, and if you want to understand the forces shaping our democracy, then don't just move on from this story. Stay with it. Keep asking questions. Keep demanding answers. And make sure you're subscribed here, because we'll keep breaking down the hearings, the testimonies, and the behind-the-scenes battles that shape the future of this country. Hit the like button if you found this breakdown eye-opening. Share it so others see what's really going on, and join us again as we shine a light on the stories that matter most.